Good evening. I'm Dr. Joseph Baker at the Limerick Chiropractic Center. Before we get started tonight, I want you to write a date down. It's April 1965. This is going to be an important date. You're going to want to refer back to it at some point and share it with others. In fact, as we go through this conversation tonight, it's going to be a moment in time when you recognize that, you know what, things that we talk about, things that we have conversation about, are demonstrated to be absolutely true. See, the amazing thing is that this was the cover of Life magazine. You can Google it, look it up. What this is the very first demonstration of the fertilization process and the developmental process that the fetus goes through inside of the mother's womb that was recorded on video. Now, I'm going to tell you, all this information was known. All this information was already there. In fact, when I look up, in Gray's Anatomy and in that same timeline, this is the 100th edition from 1965. It had all the same information. In fact, this information of embryology has not changed in all of recorded time. The remarkable thing is that until 1965, we could only read about it in books. But in 1965, it became real, jumping off the pages of that magazine. See, I had to reflect on this when starting to develop this class and talk and think about, chiropractic for all ages. What does it really mean? Well, it means absolutely nothing if we don't come to the understanding first and foremost that, from day one, we are whole. From day one, we have all of our body parts in order for this system of ours to function. From day one, that innate intelligence that resides within us has commanded the formation of who you and I are, and it has allowed us to be what we need to be. In fact, in 9 months, it's clearly demonstrated the fact that two cells come together, they join as one. That one cell multiplies and divides until within our mother's womb there's a small streak that forms, which is the gray matter of the brain and the spinal cord. After which time, as that continues to develop, it commands all the other systems and organs and body parts to form because it's already there. And without it being there, none of those other systems form. It's been proven to be true. It is not up for debate. It is agreed upon by all biologists. Without that nervous system, nothing continues to grow and function. And in the end, that nervous system allows for one cell to become 1 trillion cells. Over 1 trillion cells at birth that are working in unison with one another to allow for us to function in this world. And in the end, part of that formation happens to be the fact that your inborn intelligence recognizes that that master system of your body, your nervous system, requires a hard, bony structure to surround it and protect it, but still allow motion so that it's able to do all the things that it needs to do. To be able to create functions and do activities. It knows that. But those bones, those hard structures, as they protect you, when they come out of place, unfortunately create interferences called a subluxation. That simply means when the bones come out of place, creating pressure in your nervous system, not allowing for that proper communication to occur the way it's supposed to. Now, for those of you that are patients at the Limerick Chiropractic Center, you recognize this is a conversation we have routinely in our office. The power that makes our body runs our body and is responsible for healing our body. As chiropractors, I have to say we are hugely blessed to be capable of working with the one system of our body that's able to create the greatest amount of change in the shortest amount of time and allowing for that vitality of life to be restored again just that quickly. And I recognize that it doesn't matter the age. It doesn't matter the condition. The only thing as a chiropractic patient we ever have treated is that subluxation. Not the pain, not the ear infection, not the cold, not the runny nose, the subluxation. And yet we realize that from birth on, these subluxations can exist because of our activities. Even just gravity is capable of creating these subluxations. And we're going to talk about it a little bit tonight. So, like I said, if you're a patient at the Limerick Chiropractic Center, you know that a couple things we should be doing is, number one, liking this video. Number two, I want you to leave me a comment on what your big takeaway from the conversation is tonight. And number three, share. This information pertains to each and every one of us. And here's the thing. In the end, I recognize that more important than just simply hitting a checkbox is to make sure that somebody else that you know has the opportunity of learning and growing because they're being exposed to the truth. The truth that, not only has shown up in Grey's Anatomy for as long as they produced this, that book, not only has been videoed and demonstrated over time again and again now since 1965, we recognize that these truths, if not talked about, well, they're lost. Because people start to believe the lies that, you're only a sum of your parts. That one part doesn't talk to the other. That one part is, doesn't have to interact with anything else in your body. Or you're capable of polluting the body and it's only going to affect, one particular tissue. Oh no, that's not the case. This body of ours is a whole. We are greater than the sum of our parts. And here's the thing. When we talk about caring for this, it doesn't matter whether we're talking about a newborn or a 100-year-old patient. We recognize it's not a number. It's a matter of our health that's at stake. And to me, one of those really important things is that regardless of our ages, anybody is capable of benefiting from chiropractic. And I say that because, at some point, that very first step happens to be just simply getting checked. Can anybody be helped? The answer is yes. Will they? That's up to them. See, in turn, I recognize that, if in fact that subluxation is there, it means that we are functioning with a lack of health. And the old school definition of health, it describes it in Webster's dictionary as 100% function. See, if we have subluxation, there's no way that convection is going to ever be there. And when we muscle test people, we can see the fact that that muscle strength is weaker than it's supposed to. And yet, as soon as those subluxations are removed, we can see that vitality racing back into the body. And just in that split second, the fact that those muscles are capable of firing the way they're supposed to. Can anybody benefit from chiropractic? The answer is yes, because our body's always going to function better without these subluxations. Now, does that mean that, like a whiteboard, everything is going to be wiped away and be clean overnight? The answer is absolutely no. We recognize that health comes with more than just one thing. And yet we realize that oftentimes, if we're not starting somewhere with that most vital thing, which happens to be correcting these subluxations and allowing the nervous system to communicate properly, guess what? The best foods are not going to be processed properly. you're never going to be able to get a good night's sleep because you can't lay there and rest the way you're supposed to. There's no way that you can exert yourself during physical exercise to be able to oxygenate this body of yours. And we recognize that sooner or later, the mental stress that comes from being, constantly irritated eventually is going to cause you to have that bad mental attitude. The one thing that we do know, though, is that by removing those subluxations, we give our body that optimal ability to communicate and function the way it's supposed to. Now, I have to be honest with you, one of my greatest joys in practice is caring for my youngsters. See, the average chiropractic patient is 50 years of age and over 600 maintenance adjustments behind schedule. That's the sad reality. And people oftentimes, they wonder, why is it taking so long? How come I'm not better yet? Taking 4 and 5 decades on average to build up a problem and expect that it's going to be wiped clean in 2 or 3 visits. That's not reality. It's not the way the body works. The blessing of caring for newborns is the fact that, listen, yeah, I realize the first subluxations are going to happen with the birthing process. And I'm going to encourage you, if you've never seen that, ladies, you're going to forgive me. I'm talking to the guys out there right now. Guys, if you have never actually been in the delivery room and seen that delivery process, ladies, I know you've experienced it already. You don't have to go watch it on video. You know what that's like. It's not a pleasurable experience. Not just for you, but also for the baby. But guys, you need to see this. Taking that baby's head, turning it all the way to the right, all the way to the left, tilting it and tugging on it to deliver the shoulders. 35 to 50 pounds of pressure go through the baby's head and neck during the delivery process. That's a normal vaginal delivery. Forget about forceps, C-section, suction, 100, 150 pounds of pressure. And this is that same child that their head is like a bobblehead at first. Why would we assume that we could put that much pressure through that neck and expect for things to stay in place where they're supposed to? Let me think. It's not going to happen. See, sadly, this is only the first insult. Just wait till they start, walking and crawling and riding a bike. By the time that they're 4 years of age, the estimate is that they have had 4,000 impacts. And if you think that those impacts don't affect the body, go ahead. You stand up, just kick your legs out from underneath you, and land on your bottom. Now, I know some of us got a little bit more cushion down here than others, but I'm going to tell you, my experience when I have fallen on my butt, it doesn't feel real good. Most times, I just want to lay there for a while till my body recovers. I'm pretty sure you're the same. Not one of the things that we're going to want to repeat again and again and again. Don't think so. We realize that, oftentimes, those very first subluxations, we have parents who bring their children in, everything from colic to a difficulty latching to problems actually going to the bathroom. Constipation, not just a little bit, but for days and days and days. And we realize the body can't function the way it's supposed to if, in fact, the nerves are irritated. The remarkable thing is with children, the rebound and how that happens so quickly. And yet, I realize that that same adjustment that's delivered to the child as it's delivered to our teenagers and our more mature patients, it allows for us to have that well-being throughout our entire lifetime. But it's a choice. It's a choice and a decision that has to be made all the time. If we are not choosing a healthier lifestyle, if we're not choosing to engage to be inspected and to be tested, then we're choosing, just like the ostrich, to stick our head in the sand and just ignore when bad things are going to happen. Listen, if you go to the dentist office and he stands there and sticks that little probe in your mouth and says, right before you say, I feel good, or right after you say, I feel good, And he sticks that probe inside the tube and wiggles it around, and you're coming out of the chair and want to be scraped off the ceiling. Listen, it's a choice. There was no pain before he stuck that in there. And yet it happens to be a choice, because as soon as he takes it out, the pain goes away. Pain is not a reason for treatment. Subluxation is the reason for treatment. When you present to the office, it's to get checked. We realize that as we get checked on a regular basis from birth on, it allows us to just simply funnel ourselves so that we're growing in the healthiest, best way possible. And like anything, just like with a small sapling, a small tree, I mean, if you put a rock right up against that sapling, up against the trunk, it's going to grow and it's going to bend because of the stress and pressure. And we wonder why our children are growing up with numerous spinal issues. See, the problem is that your body doesn't care. It doesn't care whether, it happened with the birthing process, or a slip and a fall, or a sports accident. It doesn't care. All it knows is that once the subluxation is there, it continually gets worse with time. See, in our children, we start seeing things like the allergies and the asthma problems. We just start seeing things like the upset stomachs. The very beginning of the posture change that also oftentimes is that indicator of scoliosis. See, our body gives us warning signs. It gives us those indications. But if we choose not to listen to it, the sad thing is when we start to actually, ramp things up and start to do things, like our sports activities, playing at different levels. When we start to use our body like a piece of equipment that it is, and magnify the stress in it, all of a sudden the wheels start coming off. The low back pain that automatically, that shows up after, we've been sitting in our school desks. The fact that we're constantly getting headaches, and yet every time we go to the eye doctor, your eyes are okay. Your vision is okay. See, the sad thing is that oftentimes we drowned it out with, pain medication and aspirin and Advil and Tylenol, or, here, just take this. It'll be okay. If we're not actually addressing these subluxations, the problem continues to worsen. And oftentimes as we come to that point where, as we're older adults, we wonder why I just can't get up and out and do the things I love to do. I recognize the fact that oftentimes when we have an older adult present in front of us, it's clearly pain. It's clearly pain of all different types. But on top of it, it's also the fact that they have no flexibility. See, these bones have been out of place for so long, the arthritis is built up, the disc has worn down because the subluxation is there. They've lost that mobility. They can't turn their head and actually be able to see it in order to back up their own car, or look into the rear view mirror so that they can see what's behind them. They can't reach up in order to get things out of the shelf because of the subluxations in their shoulders, or walk up the steps because of the breakdown that's in their knees, their hips, their ankles. See, the problem is that oftentimes that vitality that we desire in life is eventually lost because we've planted the seeds of disease that have broken down our body over time. And yet that's a choice, because, let me tell you, our body has talked to us throughout those years. We've just chosen not to listen to it. That's the choice. I recognize anybody can benefit from chiropractic, but it's a decision that we make. Oftentimes I refer to a research article by Keenan. I would encourage you, if you've never actually looked at it, it's very interesting. You can do the abstract, the short version of it. The leading causes of death in the United States: poor decision making. That was the bottom line. you die sooner because you make poor decisions. And we recognize that the health of the body is directly proportional to the health of the spine and the nervous system. It's a choice. It's a choice that you make every single day of whether you choose to care for the spine of yours. You know, for me, it's not really a choice. For me, it's a lifestyle. I recognize I've been blessed. I didn't suffer from that disease that they call procrastination. And I say that because as a second-generation chiropractor, there was no conversation about whether I was going to get checked for subluxations. After I was born, the very first thing that happened was my dad picked me up, turned me over, got me checked, and I'm pretty sure I had my first couple thousand adjustments before I ever recognized what was going on. As a youngster, I came to understand the bigness of what chiropractic is and the bigness of what it could do, not just for myself, but also for others, because I got to be witness to my good friend Jimmy and how his body was restored and his function was improved, and he was able to actually come back out and live life once again because of his chiropractic care. As an adult, I've realized every single day the blessing I've been given. Over 25 years ago, the accident that I had, my spinal breakdown that was caused by that split second, it's never going to be repaired and wiped away. It's only going to be maintained. And I realized that without me choosing to do what I do, and to make sure that my spinal health is a priority, I wouldn't be here after 30 years doing what I'm doing now, which is sharing the story of hope, of what chiropractic is able to do for all of us. If you've never heard my story, or Shannon's or Jackie's here from the office, I'm going to encourage you to go back and listen to our testimonial workshop. We just share who we are. We just share our chiropractic stories. I'm going to encourage you to go back and listen to it because it gives people hope. We all came to chiropractic at different times. But we all have been helped and improved through chiropractic by eliminating these subluxations and allowing our body to function better. Now, I realize, in the end, chiropractic is a benefit for all ages. But I'm going to encourage you to do something, which is to make sure that you're sharing this information. See, if you're watching this right now, I know that you've already chosen chiropractic. I know as a chiropractic patient, you're already making sure that you're doing your part to make sure that your spinal health is being cared for. I'm asking you to share this information with others, to make sure that they have that opportunity of at least hearing the truth of how this body of theirs functions, and the choices and the decisions that they get to make. I'm Dr. Joseph Baker from the Limerick Chiropractic.